G'day there everyone, you found the Champ Dog, thanks for tuning in. So today I'm bringing you a little bit of a spicy one, a little bit of an off-meta deck, Rakdos Control. So this list was played in a recent tournament in Japan. I think it placed around 5th, let me just double check for you guys. So this was by Keita Tanuchi. Said it came 3rd or 4th, so I found this list on EtherHub. It looked like the sort of thing I enjoy. As I've mentioned previously in the channel, when I first got back into Magic after Ravnica Allegiance, I was playing a very control-y Rakdos. It was like a Rakdos mid-range control list, which this is also sort of a mid-range / control hybrid. So it looked like the sort of thing I'd enjoy, so I thought I'd try it out. And I have played 8 games with it so far, with only 1 loss, getting me out of gold and into platinum, 7-1. So you can see here on my MTG assistant, it's showing as 5-1 for an 83% win rate. So what's happened here is there's one game that I forgot to activate the deck tracker as I was playing. My deck tracker does not start automatically with either Arena or my computer. And there was another game where my internet cut out partway through the game, so it hasn't shown up on this. But 5-1 for an 83% win rate is still very nice, but as I said, the actual score is 7-1. The game that dropped out I will put up, and you'll see that I clearly would have won if my internet did not fall out, so the deck's done very well for me. Small sample size, only in gold, but it does prove the deck is competitive, as does its recent performance in tournaments. And since then, in the I think about the week since that tournament was held, a few other people have picked up this deck. It was mentioned, I think, in an MTG Zone article. Another Japanese player took a modified version into a tournament and did quite well with it. And a few other people have played around with it. I saw it mentioned in an article at Spikes recently as well, in a standard metagame list. So the one loss I've had was here. Ignore this nonsense. This was actually a Gruul Adventures list. You'll see that game. I'm going to put up all the games of me getting out of gold over the next few days. But I had a lot of fun with this game, so I thought I might share it with you guys and hope that you would enjoy it. It's competitive. It's a little bit different to some of the other decks running around. So I thought I would showcase it on the channel. So Rakdos Control. It's very similar to a lot of the Rakdos mid-range lists that you may already be familiar with. That came up to combat rogues, a lot of early game removal, some escape things. The critical difference here is we're running Ugin the Spirit Dragon, and to help us play Ugin, we're running Solemn Simulacrum and Ironcrag Feet, and we've cut down on the graveyard things, so we don't have Maya Triton, we don't have Timurit Cause the Dead. This list only runs 1 Kroxa in the main deck, and we've got our 3 Oxid Agonists. We've still got a lot of the early removal, 4 Spikefield Hazard, 4 Shatterskull Smashing, both of which have been far more helpful than I expected. Shatterskull Smashing in particular is a lot better in this deck than other decks I've tried it in, because we do have the ramp elements, and also it plays nicely with Ironcrag Feet. Obviously the problem with Ironcrag Feet is sometimes it's just going to sit in your hand, be a dead card that does absolutely nothing. So this deck helps to mitigate that a little bit by not only running the Ugin so that you can play it on turn 5 with another untapped land, but you can use Ironcrag Feet mana in Shatterskull Smashing to help take out some creatures, which has come up more than a couple of times. And also you'll see in some of the videos I'm going to put up, Shatterskull Smashing, if it's your last card in hand. If you've only got a couple of cards in hand and one of them's Ox, you can play a card, play Shatterskull Smashing to get mana since you've tapped some of your lands, play Ox, draw 3 fresh cards. So there's a few things that Ironcrag Feet is actually useful for in this deck. I'm not saying it's a great card. It is still awkward sometimes, but it's a little bit less awkward in this deck than you might expect. Some of the modified versions of this list that popped up after this one got some attention are running Fire Prophecy in place of Scorching Dragonfire, which is another card that just lets you get rid of this. I've also considered putting, I think it's Valakut Awakening, the dual-faced red land that lets you pitch things from your hand. I'm going to make a few changes to this deck because there's certain things I think can be optimized, having played with it a bit. Obviously this deck did do quite well in the tournament, no doubt piloted and built by a better player than myself. And it has done well for me on ladder, but there's a couple of things that I'd like to change to make it my own. But this is the deck that, as it is, and as you're going to be seeing in the next few videos, so I just wanted to show it to you. So, as I said, the main interaction here is Ironcrag Feet to get out Ugin early. That's obviously our big power play. We've got Ox of Agonist to refill our hand, and it's very useful. I think it's better in this deck than Kroxa is, because we're not filling up our graveyard super quickly to escape Kroxa. We're not a Kroxa deck. Kroxa is just a nice thing to have access to. What we're better off doing, because we're a more control-y, slower deck, is playing an Ox of Agonist and refilling our hand. And I'll often hardcast this as one of the last cards in my hand, or with an awkward hand of useless cards. Pitch it, get new cards, or escape it out of the graveyard, draw 3. It's a really nice card in this deck, and as I said, I think it's a stronger card in this deck than Kroxa is. The rest of the deck, a lot of it is just controlling the board. We've got 4 Spikefield Hazards, we've got Scorching Dragonfire, which is actually really nice for the exile. So this can hit a Soaring Thought Thief when it comes down in your end step and exile it, so they can't bring it back with a Loris or an Agadeem's Awakening. The exile clause on this is just very nice. 4 Heartless Act, just a really good removal spell. Sometimes it's a bit awkward with the counter situation, but that's why it's nice to have sort of a split. We've got Shatterskull Smashing, which is just a really high quality card. You can play it as a land, and later on in the game you can take out a couple of creatures with it. Mazemind Tome to help us fill through our draws, get a little bit of card advantage and gain some life. It's a really good card. I'm sure everyone knows that by now. And plays kind of nicely in this deck because we are playing a slower, more control-y game. Bonecrusher Giant's just a generally strong card. Helps you kill off some early game creatures, helps fix your curve because it's a 2 and a 3 drop, and helps you put some pressure on the board, which is also really helpful because this deck is otherwise a little bit slow. It doesn't have the same card advantage that a blue-based list would have. So putting something on the board and forcing your opponent to respond to you to help bridge you into the late game where you're dropping your bombs can be really handy. We've got 2 Extinction Event just as a sweeper. You'll notice between Ugin, Extinction Event, and Scorching Dragonfire, and even Spikefield Hazard, we have a lot of exile effects, which is actually really handy at the moment. I mentioned Loris, I mentioned Agadeem's Awakening, and there's a few other things floating around in the meta that make exiling pretty handy. Against other Kroxas, it's really nice. It's just nice to have this much exile. It turns off a lot of graveyard things and helps mitigate our lack of graveyard hate in the sideboard. You'll notice there's actually nothing in here to deal with opponents' graveyards. We don't run Elspeth's Nightmare, we don't run Soul Guide Lantern. I'm thinking of adding something like that because there still have been a couple of games where opponents' graveyards have been a little bit of a problem. I've ended up prevailing in those games, but I think it'd be nice to have access to something. And some of the newer versions of this list are running, for example, Soul Guide Lantern to deal with that. We've got Ironcrag Feet, as I said, to power out, primarily to power out Ugin, but you can also use it to just play out your hand and still have Ox of Agonist, or to power up a Shatterskull Smashing if your opponent's played a couple of big creatures and you can't deal with them otherwise. Solemn Simulacrum is obviously just a very good card. It's a little bit slow, but again, it's nice in this list because we are a mid-range deck more than a control deck, but we're a controlling mid-range deck. So having this helping us ramp to get into our bigger spells is nice. Drawing a card when it dies is nice, and just being something on the board to block or pressure our opponent is also pretty good. You'll see I play a game against, I think, was it Rogues? One of the later games you'll see in this series, Solemn Simulacrum is the only thing I stick on the board, and I almost kill my opponent single-handedly with that. So the body is a little more relevant than you might expect sometimes. Our land base, fairly straightforward. Bunch of mountains, bunch of swamps, Temple of Malice, Fabled Passage, Crawling Barrens. So I just copied, pasted this list from when I saw it in EtherHubs. So that's why we've got the basic arena, swamps and mountains, and this really annoying Eldraine M21 split on the Fabled Passages. Bring your attention to Crawling Barrens. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this card by now, but it really is nice here. It's a nice mana sink. It's a nice little extra creature to have on the board that can't be countered to give us a little more game against counterspell decks. and also can just be another thing on the board when you need to block or attack, because we're not running that many significant threats. So it's nice to have something you can throw extra mana into and just make a threat that is difficult to deal with because it's not a creature on your opponent's turn. Sideboard, we've got 3 Agonizing Remorse, which is really nice in the current meta because of the Exile clause. Disruption's just also pretty handy against a bunch of decks. 3 Embereth Shieldbreaker, which is nice to deal with the Great Henge. It can technically also answer Embercleave, but I don't think it's a good answer to Embercleave because you really want to deal with Embercleave the turn it comes down, because that's often the turn you're dying. I'm actually thinking of changing this to Shredded Sails when I update this list and tweak it to my own liking, because I think it's just the better card. It's a little more flexible because you can bring it in against rogues to deal with the Soaring Thought Thief and any other flying threats that you see against other decks. It still kills an artifact, does it at instant speed, so it's much better against Embercleave, and it cycles if you don't need it. Obviously this is cheaper, the 1 mana to destroy an artifact is nice, but as I said, it's sorcery speed, so a Great Henge has already hit the board and they've potentially got some value off it, and Embercleave has already hit the board and taken a chunk out of your life total. So I think it's just better to do that at instant speed, and also have the option of bringing it in, bringing a Shredded Sails in against more matches. And the 2-1 body is not very relevant to this deck. So yeah, I think that's an easy change. Thundering Rebuke. I don't exactly know what matchup this is for. Obviously, I bring it in against more aggro decks just to some more removal. But again, it's sorcery speed. I don't think the 4 damage is particularly relevant in this meta. Like, it can hit a Questing Beast and a couple of other things. 4 damage will, I guess, kill a Vivian. But being sorcery speed really holds this back, and not being able to hit things like Lovestruck Beast is actually pretty critical, because obviously Lovestruck Beast or a pumped up Kazandu Mammoth are things that can make the Great Henge a lot cheaper, and the Great Henge is pretty much the only card in, say, a mono green that will let them get back into the game against us. It's obviously also pretty crippling if Gruul aggro gets to resolve it. It's one of the cards that those decks will be relying on to take over the game against us, and not being able to kill the things that enable it is a little bit awkward. We've got 2 more Kroxas, which is helpful in the Rogues matchups. It's nice to bring this in, hit the hand a bit more. It's also handy against some of the Urian and cycling decks. You want to take cards out of their hands so that they run out of cards to cycle and shut down their game plan. I find cycling decks concede to this card way too readily. You'll see a game coming up where a cycling deck just concedes when the game is far from over, but it does hurt that deck quite a lot. It's nice there. Murderous Rider, a little bit more removal. It's flexible, hits Planeswalkers, which Thundering Rebuke also does. That's the other thing in its favor. It's flexible, but I don't like it because it just doesn't quite do enough, and the sorcery speed holds it back. I'd kind of rather have more Murderous Riders or something else. But yeah, it's in there, a little bit of flexibility. Creature side is also nice in a sort of mid-rangey value list like this. The Akroan War is an interesting one. I'm not super high on this card. It's been popping up a bit in the Gruul aggro decks, I believe, to help them in the mirror. It is nice to snag a creature and kill some things, but it's pretty telegraphed and easy to play around. That said, I have used this card and I did like it in the games where I had it. I'm definitely not saying it's a bad card or you shouldn't play it. I'm just saying I'm not super high on it, but I understand why it's here and I think it's a good include. And we've just got another Ox of Agonis. Helps us get card advantage in the longer games. Helps us again against rogues and mill decks. And yeah, it's just really nice in our grindier games to have a body that can draw you some cards and come back from the graveyard. So we're about 15 minutes now. I've gone through pretty much every card in the deck, so we're going to cut this off here and jump into some games, but I do hope you enjoy them. There's going to be a deck list in the description linking to the Etherhub list of the guy who originally ran it, and once I get through all of the videos that I already have recorded and change the deck, I'll put up my own updated list and link to that in future videos. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you enjoy the games. Let's get in straight. I'm going to take that play. Better hook in my headphones as well. Okay, this hand is incredibly one-dimensional, but we might be able to scry and or draw our way out of that with Mazemind Tome, and we do have our main thing that the deck does, which is Iron Crag into Ugin. And Ugin is good against Urian lists, so I think we can beat this. Hope they're not playing Selesnya Urian. So we're going to lead on this. I mean, it's something. Put something on the board that they have to respond to. So I'm going to lead on the Mazemind Tome. I'm not overly fast if I get the damage on this or I don't. Our plan is pretty clearly this. Okay. I'm actually going to scry here, just so I can get value out of this in case of a Skyblade Apparition. I do like the Solemn, but I think we're just digging for land here. We can do this on, we need to do this actually the turn after. Maybe that was a mistake. 3 Ugins, Lord. Yeah, so I'm just going to play this out like so. I forgot this doesn't quite hit this, it helps us hit it on turn 5, so the Solemn might have been a little bit better than I thought, because we need to get to 5 lands. Casket, sure. That's fine. As I said, I'm mostly just playing this out to put something down and force them to respond. So now their turn has been playing this, and getting in for 2, which is not bad, because again, we're just trying to buy time. I will scry again. As I said, the Skyblade Apparition is an ever-present threat. Okay, so I'm going to draw here to try and hit the land. Okay, that's something. Whoa, the lag. And we're just really hoping for no counter spells when we hit this 5th land, hopefully next turn. So I can scry to try and hit a land, but yeah, I'm happy to just play out like this as well. Because if this gets answered, we may need to play one naturally as well. Man, I almost forgot that we had black in this deck, hey? We haven't hit any black lands. Our opponents missed quite a few land drops as well. They are digging for him. Okay, that does nothing. They're just getting it down so they can blink it with Urian next turn, I guess. Or maybe they forgot the casting cost situation. Okay, so it looks like we're doing this way. And everything here is 2, isn't it? Get in with the Solemn. Sure. Draw 2 cards. Hit another land so I can hard cast Ugin if I have to.
I will destroy if I must.
Thin our deck a bit. Something like that. 42 left. They've obviously got heaps left. Oh, hello, that's spicy. And it's just going to die to the Ugin ability, but last swamp.
Do not ignore my draconic talents.
And I think at this point we just want to put pressure on the board. Try and close out this game. Yep. Okay, let's see what we've got in this sideboard. I think Rider might be good to deal with Urians. Oh, actually, Extinction Event can clean up a few things as well, though, like permanently. Charming Prince, tokens from Omen of the Sun, etc. I think I definitely want Agonizing Remorse. So is that Heartless Act that I'm cutting? I think some combination of these. I like the fact that this exiles, so it hits Skyclave Apparition, hits Charming Prince. Doesn't hit anything bigger, so this can hit Urians. I don't have anything to attack my opponent's graveyard. I think Ox might be better than Kroxa because of Glass Casket. I think I can cut an Ironcrag Feet. This is a bit of a slow game. Nah, I think I keep. I can actually cut a land being on the draw. I hate that Arena does this. Obviously I just straight imported, I didn't change anything. So I do need to be wary of potential counterspells this time around. Oh wow, this hand does nothing. Yeah, I can't keep that. This is better. I think I put back Extinction Event. Why am I going first? My opponent took the draw. No. Helps me power out Nox of Agonist like a turn earlier, or potentially Shadow Skull Smashing. I don't know, I'll keep it. I mean, it's a significant chunk of what our deck is trying to do. Why are they on the draw? I don't know why they would choose that. I should have led with this, by the way, so that I don't ever have to pay life for it. Okay. I think I take the Epiphany. I'm not overly worried about Omen of the Sun right now. Glass Casket won't actually hit anything in my deck anymore. I did keep in the Giants, so it will hit Giants, but that's fine. This doesn't really do anything. So Shark type, these are the 3 active cards. I think I take the Epiphany. His counter spells are what I'm most worried about. There's an argument that I should have taken like both of Meletis or Omen to throw off their early game, since I'm not doing a lot right now. We'll see how that decision plays out, I guess. Well, there's an Ugin. Am I doing anything this turn? No, so I think I do this. Yep. Excellent, so we've got Ugin next turn. Take a mountain here. I've already got 2 black. Okay. Buying a Urian, so here comes Ugin.
Accept another world, and you will go lost to history. All creation.
And next turn we can refill our hand with the Ox. Yep. Makes sense. Try to pressure the Ugin. I'll actually save this for later. Our opponent's tapped out, they can't do anything, so I will get as much information as I can about how the turn plays out before going for the scribe. So I can attack here. If they block with either, Ugin can finish it off. And it doesn't matter if I'm not going face. It's just about ticking him up right now. Opponent's on 24, so it's going to be a while before going face matters.
Beyond perception.
Another backup Ugin's nice. And 2 lands to cast it with. Not bad. Yep, that's one way they get back into the game, but Ugin can answer that and the tokens.
Muscle cannot become mine.
I'll put a stop here so I don't forget to pump the Barons if I need to. So I could kill my own Simulacrum to draw a card, but that seems a bit silly. I don't need another card at the moment.
Fire, my greatest creation.
So they swing in with Urian. Okay, Amiria's Call, excellent. This is mwah, chef's kiss. So next Ugin just clears all of this up. If my game stops lagging. No, don't crash. Don't crash, don't you dare. Don't you dare. This is an exile, so the Indestructible from
I leave you to your doom.
Indestructible from Amiria's call doesn't matter. Do not become a creature. My turn. Well, these Dragonfires are pretty useless. I haven't seen a Skyclave apparition, which is a bit strange. I could attack with the Ops, but there's no point.
An opportunity to act rashly.
It's better to just do this and get in for 2 with the Simulacrum.
You are too dangerous.
Next turn I can refill again with the... No, I can't. I cannot quite do that. So this looks like a Shark Typhoon. If it's not, probably Ugin my own Simulacrum to get the card draw. Yeah, no, this is a Typhoon for 1, 2, 3. So Typhoon for 5, so we can double Dragonfire it. And this will help fill my graveyard to get the Ox out.
My flames burn beyond perception.
Okay, so as I said, the Shark Typhoon, if it's Shark Typhoon, can be for 5. So I can play this and still have enough mana for the 2 Dragonfires. Yep. So this is almost just mono red and splashes black for some disruption and Kroxa. Okay, so no shark token then. That's fine. I'd rather counter that than dig for something anyway. Omen of the Sea, yep. Charming Prince. So I could exile these, but honestly them blinking just an Omen of the Sun, Omen of the Sea probably isn't a huge deal at the moment, so I'll just tick up and kill the Prince. Play this as a land. I don't want to activate this because I want to make sure I have something up to protect Ugin if I need to. There's the Kraken. So if I activate this, they can Glass Casket it, but I can Ugin the Glass Casket away, so that doesn't really matter. Obviously Apparition punishes me for this, but as I can see the casket, I assume that's what they're going to answer with.
What
Ugin goes down to 4, seems fine. We'll kill off the Kraken within next turn. No, we won't. We're going to Scorching Dragonfire the Kraken, aren't we? Nah, we're just going to exile for 3. Makes more sense. Get rid of the Omen of the Sun as well. Well, that's pretty useless. I could Shatter Skull Smashing for a lot, but I do not need to. It's just so hard for these guys to beat. I could use this to really pump up the Barons, but seems a bit suboptimal. I'd rather keep my Dragonfires up. It's also why I haven't pushed to get something into my yard for Ox. I like having these to protect against potential Shark Typhoon. Don't mind Heartless Act.
Ghost fire.
And I will actually attack with the Barons at this point. I can just Heartless Act a Shark now. Okay, they're scrying, so there's no Shark. Searching for an answer. So they need to answer the Ugin and Crawling Barons. Seems like a tall ask. Okay, down to Ugin. And we'll just attack in for the win here. Easy. Okay, so we're gonna leave it at just one game for this video because the intro was a little bit longer because I wanted to do a more in-depth deck tech and talk about the deck a bit more. It was a nice little win we had there. Do stay tuned. I'm going to have a few more games with this deck coming up over the coming days. I have recorded all of the games that I played getting out of gold and I'm planning to put them all up, so I hope you enjoy them. I'm really liking this list. As I said, you're going to see a little bit of it over the coming days, so strap yourselves in and look forward to it. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Stay brilliant.